Here we are, the Yom Yom. Yom Yom are sayings by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe that were gathered together by our Rebbe. Now we have, this is Yutet Kislev, that was yesterday, and the Tanya. The Tanya, we begin learning the Tanya. Every year we begin learning the book, the Tanya, and we learn it for 1 year, every day, a certain portion, until we finish the whole Tanya in 1 year. Where is it? I had a book over here. Where did it go? Anyway, see, whatever I want is not here. Okay. Anyway, the book of the Tanya. What could it be? I just had it. I was just reading it the other day. All right. I have to take my word for it. The Tanya is in the 53 chapters in the first book, and there's 5 books. There's 53 chapters in the first book, first section. Then there's 10 chapters in the next 2 sections. That's called the second section talks about the unity of God and the creation of the world. The third talks about tshuva, how to return, come back close to God. And then there's letters of the Rebbe, and there's Igros Kodesh. Very interesting book. We finished the whole thing, so we've just finished. And yesterday we started again. The first time this book was printed, Book of the Intermediates. Benoni means the average Jew. Benoni means the middle. The book of the average Jew. It was what a Jew is supposed to be. It defines what a Jew is in a way you'd never believe. What it means that every Jew is the son of God. How to serve God, how to utilize that in the world. The first time it was printed, it was completed on the 20th day of Kislev. That's today in Slavita. It had part 1, Sefer Shel Benoni. Part 2, that's talking about the oneness of God. And the part 3, which is the, Chinuch Katan. And I'm sorry, let's go again. It contained part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is the Sefer of the Benoni, and the part 2 is what's called Chinuch Katan and Shar Yichud Ve'Emunah. Chinuch Katan is just basically 1 paragraph, and Shar Yichud Ve'Emunah is the talking about the oneness of God. Then there was the third section of the Tanya, Igeret Tshuva, the letters of how to return to God. This was printed later on. This was printed in 99. This is after the Rebbe got out of prison. Then there's Igeres HaKodesh. There's letters that the Rebbe wrote about these topics. That was written much later. That was written after the Rebbe already had passed away. That was when it was printed. The Rebbe had written the whole thing out, but he didn't want to print it. And for whatever reason it is, he didn't want it to become, he didn't like to print. Whatever reason he had for logic, he didn't want to print. But when the enemies started changing words, everything was copied. Listen, the Talmud was passed on, just copied and writing for how long? 1,000 years, right? When was the first printing press? 500 years ago. And the Talmud was begun with 1,500, 1,600 years ago. So over 1,000 years, the Talmud was just printed. It was written, handwritten, passed from person to person. So the same thing was with the Tanya. The corrected edition of all the 4 parts was done in Vilna and has been reprinted many times since. The Tanya. I advise anybody who doesn't know what this means is to ask your Chabad representative or look it up. The book, the Tanya, it's called the Tanya, Sefer Shel Benoni, the book of the average Jew. How to serve God everywhere. Now, story. 1 minute. Stop this here.